The Belgian Grand Prix this weekend was the third of 6 sprint rounds in 2025, and while we know what the calendar as a whole is going to be next year, we do not know which of those 24 rounds are going to have sprint weekends incorporated into them. That has been a mystery, and it's been a subject really of a lot of debate in the F1 fandom. What would you change from this year? What should change and what likely will change? Because what you want to happen is probably not what is actually going to happen. That is the way that Formula 1 normally goes. And like I said, this has not been yet confirmed. Officially, anyway. Unofficially, it might have got revealed at the weekend by the Dutch Grand Prix X account, or Twitter, if you're so inclined, whichever one you want to call it. The official Dutch Grand Prix account, wanting to promote ticket sales ahead of the event next month, actually tweeted out a now deleted picture that appears to show which 6 rounds in 2026 are going to have sprint races. There is a screenshot there that is done in the style of everything official with Formula 1 these days, the official kind of font and everything that they go for now. And it appears to show that China, Miami, Canada, Great Britain, the Netherlands and Singapore will all get sprint rounds in 2026. Now, this has now been deleted. This is now no longer on there, and it has not been officially confirmed by Formula 1 yet which rounds in 2026 are going to get the sprint treatment. Now, I do find this interesting, and I do think it is probably legitimate. Why would the Dutch Grand Prix purposely tweet out a fake picture? Would they do this just to make more attention on their account? I don't know about that. You might cynically think something like that, but I'm pretty sure they're not meant to do something like that, and they could get in serious trouble with F1. They probably will get in serious trouble with F1 for actually revealing this early, so it's not going to be a benefit to them. It is probably just a mistake that their Twitter admin has made over the weekend. Now, basically the changes when it comes to this, the first 2 rounds being Miami and China, that is staying the same as this year. However, instead of having Belgium, instead of having Sao Paulo, instead of having Kota, and instead of having Qatar as well, we're going to have 4 different rounds getting the sprint treatment. Canada, for the first time ever, will get a sprint race. Silverstone, for the first time since I think 2021, the first ever F1 sprint was actually held at Silverstone that year. The Netherlands, I don't believe there's ever been a sprint there either. And Singapore, there's definitely never been a sprint there. But what do I think about this? Do I think these are good choices for sprint races overall? Well, to be honest, for the most part, no. I really don't think so. I mean, Canada, I think that's an excellent choice. I would really like to see a sprint race there. I think that's a great choice. Miami, no. On the whole, I'm not a fan of that track in general. I don't think having a sprint race is particularly great. Although, admittedly, the sprint race this year was great, but that was only because it was a wet race. China, I think that's a pretty poor choice for a sprint in general, if I'm being totally honest. But they probably do want to get an East Asian round in there, at least one that's on the East Asian time zone. I know Singapore, of course, is in East Asia as well, but that race is run to European time zones, so it's a little different really with that. Although, of course, the fact it's potentially going to be a sprint means that they'll run that on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, much earlier than they normally would at Singapore, so that could relatively be an early one. But I think Singapore being a choice for a sprint round, I think it's an absolutely abysmal choice. Basically, when it comes to sprint races, you want tracks that really have a big potential for overtaking, because even at tracks where we do see a lot of overtaking normally, like Spa this year, it's very hard to overtake around a track that has no pit stops. There are no pit stops during the sprint unless you have some sort of issue. So I do think that Singapore is a really poor choice. And I understand why they've given the Netherlands the sprint treatment, because it's going to be the final Dutch Grand Prix ever in theory. So I get why, but from a purely racing point of view, I think that's a very poor choice, really. I really do. I think the Netherlands, Singapore, Miami, China, you could bin all of them off. You really, really could do when it comes to the sprint rounds of the season. Silverstone and Canada, yeah, good choices. I'm in favour of that personally, but I'd much rather see Brazil stay on there. I'd much rather see Kota stay on there. I think that's a decent one to have a sprint race round. I'd love to see Monza maybe get the sprint treatment. Belgium, I think, can be good. Austria has been good in the past as well. But yeah, for me, that sprint calendar is seriously disappointing if it is true. We will find out soon, no doubt. I think they will probably reveal this during the summer break when news is a bit slow in Formula 1. But I imagine this is probably legitimate. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think these are 6 good choices for sprint rounds next year in 2026? Should we get more than 6 sprints? Would you get rid of the sprint in Formula 1? Do you not like the format in Formula 1 as a whole? I want to hear what you have to say either way in the comments below. Like, share, comment, subscribe as always, guys, and have a fantastic day wherever in the world today, and we'll see you very soon.